Welcome to the greatest podcast in sports betting entertainment. My name is Tanner Kern, certified G, bona fide stud, and you can't teach that. And this right here, this is G Money Grant Mitchell. We are here breaking down the entire, well, not the entire, but the first round in the play-in of the NBA playoffs, and you can't teach that. Bada boom, man of the people in the room. G Money Grant Mitchell, are you riding this morning?
Tanner, we know I'm the NBA guy on the show, so of course I'm riding. I mean, this is my time of the year. I got to be fully locked in for the people, for you, for myself, and I am. I'm locked in and I'm riding.
You better lock in because I got some money to burn now. I got a lot of money to burn after Scotty Scheffler won the Masters yesterday.
Big Scotty.
Everyone says don't take the favorite in a golf tournament, blah, blah, blah. So many people were on Scotty, and I'm not like a big golf better. I'll bet the Masters. I cleaned up this weekend. Tiger to make the cut before his massive blow up in the third and fourth round, which was disgusting to watch. But again, I don't care. He made the cut. I had a little FanDuel boost. You know, the Tiger was like to be par or better for the first three holes of the first round. That cashed. Then Scotty to win and Scotty top five, which was plus money. Like Scotty top five was plus 105. That was free. So I need some NBA picks so I can keep making money and money and money.
One of my friends, actually, we have a little sports betting group chat. He put down $75. He won $1,000. He had a parlay on Scotty Scheffler to win the tournament. He had Alex Pereira by knockout, and he had D'Angelo Russell to score 15 points and the Lakers to win. It was plus 12, 26 odds, and $75 to $1,000. Good day at the office.
Yeah, UFC cost me this weekend. I don't want to talk about that, but I was doing really well. There's this guy named Bo Nickel. You watch UFC at all?
Yeah.
Bo Nickel, like the dude's a dog. So I bet the over 1.5 rounds there because I'm like, he's not going to choke out whoever he fought. Whoever he fought in that short time. He didn't, luckily. So I was like feeling good there. And then we got to the Gaethje fight. And Max Holloway just beat his ass. Gaethje's reaching in at the end of the first round to get his nose kicked out. And then that was done at that point. Like once he broke his nose in the first round, I will say Justin Gaethje's an absolute dog.
Wait, did you bet Gaethje?
Yeah, I bet Gaethje, which was obviously the wrong decision. But like for him to go 20 minutes with a broken nose, like that's pretty impressive, honestly. I don't care though, because the fight was over because he was doing dumb stuff right from the beginning. And Max Holloway fought great.
Well, I mean, Max Holloway was dumb for the ending of it because he didn't need to do that. He was going to win on the scorecard, but I mean, he said, everybody was calling him a BAMF after the game or after the fight, and that's exactly what he is. He's a BAMF for doing that because he had already won. And he said, "I don't care, meet me in the middle of the ring."
Even Holloway wasn't even touched the entire fight though. So say Gaethje knocks him down, unless it's like a clean knockout like he did. And keep in mind, Gaethje had already been hit in the head about 1 million times. Like one touch to the head, he was done. But even if it was like a clean punch to Holloway, like I don't think you were knocking him down. Like he was not touched the entire fight. He had a couple scrapes. Not bad though.
How much CTE do you think Holloway has?
I don't know. These guys all like you gotta be a sicko. To step in the octagon, you need to be a sick mother effer. Like that's
and then to be a champion, you have to be literally insane. Like Max Holloway is insane. He's not right in the head for some of the trauma that he takes and that he accepts. He wants it. He is just crazy.
Yeah, like he doesn't feel like his leg was really like Gaethje was hitting him in the leg with the kicks for the majority of the fight. Like it was swelled up. Like he didn't even look like he was feeling it. He just put the pain away. So
have you ever been kicked, like given a real leg kick before?
No, they hurt though.
Yeah, I have a friend who does, just a friend who trains UFC, like not even a real fighter. And I asked him to give me a kick in the leg because, I don't want to say I didn't understand the power of a leg kick, but I just never felt it before, right? And in my mind, like I used to play soccer, like I've been kicked before. I got big legs. So I was like, what's it gonna do? And it hurts. It hurts really bad.
Well, guys have snapped their leg from leg kicks. Like it happens all the time. It's great. You get them right in the soft spot between the knee. Like guys snap their leg. And I'm not a big UFC watcher. Like I'll watch the big pay-per-views. I can't wait for Conor McGregor to come back in June. But other than that, like I'll watch the pay-per-views and they're fun to watch. They're fun to bet on, but they're hard to pick because it's like anyone can get knocked out with a single punch.
Yeah, I agree. I am more of a boxing guy than UFC, but I do like the UFC too.
Definitely. Well, we got some NBA to talk about, but before we do that, make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel, guys. Again, we're on this new YouTube channel. We got clips going up. The clips have been taken off. Let's get the shows to take off now. So make sure you subscribe, like, share, ring the bell so you get notifications and all that good stuff. And Grant, Why don't you give me a little top level insight on the NBA playoff bracket?
Yeah, so the way that it shapes up, we've talked about it before on the show, on the old channel and on this one. In the Eastern Conference, there are some interesting matchups, and we will get into them. But it really does have to be the Boston Celtics coming out of the East over there. I think we're both in full agreement on that. I mean, they're a clear minus money favorite. I think they're minus 170, minus 180 to win the East. So yeah, you've definitely got to be looking at them over there. Out in the West, though, this was kind of the big thing going into it because there was so much to play for. All of Denver, Minnesota, and OKC had a chance to be the 1 seed on the final day of the season. Obviously, OKC did secure it. And everybody was talking about, well, what's the bracket going to look like? It's really tough to make any predictions or to place any future bets until we see the bracket. And although we don't know the play-in results, we do have an idea of what's to come in that bracket. And it's pretty interesting. I'm really looking forward to seeing how Jaden McDaniels guards Kevin Durant in that Suns Timberwolves series. Devin Booker is 11-1 against Anthony Edwards in their careers. I have little to no confidence in the Suns winning a championship, but I do think that is a tough matchup for Minnesota. So definitely some interesting series over there. But one of the most interesting matchups is one that we have a chance of getting. It does kind of depend on what happens, but LeBron and Curry are both in the play-in tournament. And this is the question that I wanted to ask to you. Of those two, who do you think has a greater chance of being eliminated before they get to the bracket?
Well, it has to be the Warriors because the Warriors got to face the Kings on the road. They have to win that game, and then they have to play the winner or the loser of the Pelicans versus Lakers game. And that's two bad matchups there. I don't think the Warriors are going to beat either the Pelicans or the Lakers. So I would say that the Warriors and the Steph Curry Golden State team has the better chance of not making the playoffs. But again, you never know. I don't think you can count out Steph in the playoffs. You can't count out LeBron in the playoffs. You can't count out a lot of these guys. So it should be interesting. But overall, I think the Warriors are the team that's definitely on the outside looking in right now.
I would agree with you. First of all, just from a simple mathematical equation, I mean, the Lakers have to win 1 game. Warriors have to win 2. It's, the Warriors' path right there is twice as hard. Now, they are on the road against Sacramento. That's a very interesting series. I feel like these teams play all the time. If you go back to the first round last year, you'll remember they went in Game 7. Steph dropped 50 points on the road in that Game 7 to get the Warriors into the next round, where they then lost to LeBron and the Lakers. I think the Kings probably had a very good chance to beat them about a month ago. But the Warriors have been playing really good basketball as of late, and also the loss of Malik Monk is huge. It's going to be – there's a huge burden on Domantas Sabonis and De'Aaron Fox now. And to Fox's credit, he does have a lot of big games against the Warriors, but without Malik Monk, who was probably your third best player, he's going to probably win 6th Man of the Year, giving you like 15, 16 points and 5 assists off the bench per night, has that explosive capability. That's definitely a big loss. So I do think the Warriors will get out of that game. This kind of does transition to another topic as well, which we will get to in a second, but I'm with you. I don't love their matchup against the Pelicans or against the Lakers. The Pelicans did just beat Golden State, I believe, in Golden State a few days ago. And then the Lakers just kind of, they kind of own the Warriors in LeBron's LA era. They beat him in the play-in tournament a couple of times. They beat him in the second round of the playoffs. I know that Golden State did beat them recently, but I still feel like this Lakers team, they're 23-10 over the last 33 games. Got one of the best offenses in basketball, probably the best offense since the All-Star break. So, yeah, I think it's a really bad matchup, and the chances of the Warriors making the bracket may be looking a little bleak.
So my question to you is, looking at the spread in the Warriors versus Kings game, it's now currently 2.5 in favor of Golden State, opened at 1.5. Knowing that Sacramento has not been in this spot before, knowing how into it the fans are in Sacramento, it's going to be a hostile environment. Like, there's the Kings are finally starting to get national attention the past couple seasons. Now they're here. Why do you think the Warriors are the favor? Why do you think the public's backing them, even though the season series split 2-2?
Well, the Warriors were – there's this weird thing where teams can be really good at home and really bad on the road and then completely flip it around the next year. The Warriors were one of the worst road teams in basketball last year. I think they were like 10-32 or something insane on the road last year. but they've actually been really good on the road this year. They've been, I think, like top 5, top 7 in terms of overall net rating. So that combined with their familiarity against the Kings, again, the fact that Steph did drop 50 points in that Game 7 last year, and the Malik Monk injury, I can't emphasize that enough. If you don't have that secondary scorer, a guy that can heat up and get you 30 to 40 points in a big game, I just think the Kings are at a real disadvantage there. Sacramento also has not been that great at home this year, even though their fans are incredible. I believe they're barely over 500. So I would still trust the Warriors in that one, even if I do think it's going to be difficult.
So looking at this Lakers-Pelicans series, like there's been some birdies on the internet. I've been reading the dark webs. There's some conspiracy theories going on that the Los Angeles Lakers may just give this game away so they don't have to face the Denver Nuggets, who are the 2 seed in the Western Conference West. I think that's a little insane. I think the Los Angeles Lakers want to win. They want to get in, and they don't want to go to a do or die game, even if they're going to be at home in that one. But I would say that's crazy what I'm reading on the internet. What would you say?
I wouldn't say it's crazy, but I would say that I would not be following that strategy. With the Pelicans, the Pelicans are a very good team, even though they are only the 7th seed. They're like top 15 and top 13 in all of the big categories, 3-point shooting, 3-point defense, offensive rating, defensive rating, rebound percentage. Like they're a very good, very well-balanced team. They've got some big-time performers. They go deep off the bench. They're a tough team for most teams to match up with, but for whatever reason, the Lakers have made mincemeat of them. They played them in their last game of the regular season. They won that by 16 or 18 points. They blew them out in the in-season tournament semifinal. They won the season series 3-1. I think that the Lakers could, as long as they play their game, I think they have a very, very good chance to win that game. I know the spread is only a point or 2, but I definitely think you would be back in the Lakers there. The reason that people are saying they're going to throw it on purpose is obviously to avoid the Denver Nuggets. The problem with that is if you do lose, well, you're like, I don't know what the number is, but it's something like 3-10, 3-11 in your last however many matchups with the Kings. So do you really want to set yourself up for that? And then if it's the Warriors, even though I do really think the Lakers match up well with the Warriors, they are still playing some of the best basketball in the league. They've got like a top 5, top 7 record since the All-Star break. And it is Steph Curry, a guy that can go out and make 8-9 threes in a game. And if he does that, are you going to be able to respond? So yeah, to those points and also to what you were saying, I do think the Lakers do not throw this game. I do think they come out to win, but it does set them up for Denver, and that would be a tough matchup.
Definitely. Well, you talk about being bad at home. The Pelicans only 21-19 on the season at home. And when the Lakers have beat the Pelicans this year, it's been like brutal demoralization. Like they have dominated them. They've blown them off the floor. Game 1 back on December 7th, 133-89. Game 2, the Pelicans did take that on New Year's Eve by 20 points, but then the Lakers came back, beat them by 16, and then beat them by 17, then beat them by 16. So the Lakers have owned the Pelicans. I think they're going to be just fine in this game. We're going to see a matchup with the Nuggets in the first round of the playoffs. Here's
an interesting question for you, because I've heard this theory floated around. The Denver Nuggets, most people would say, are the favorites in the Western Conference. The betting odds certainly reflect that. But if you were to ask me, I think we could agree the Nuggets are the favorites out west. Do you think the Lakers' best chance to beat them is in the first round? And even though they are giving up a day or so of rest, or actually a couple of days with the play-in tournament, they are extremely hot. Again, they're 23-10 over the last 33 games. I believe that's either the same record as Denver or it's only 1 game off. They're full of energy because you got to keep in mind, LeBron, Anthony Davis, they're old. Like by the time they get to the Western Conference Finals, if they have to play some Game 6s and Game 7s, they might be tired. It's not going to be the case here. Do you think this is just maybe the best time to get the Nuggets?
Yeah. I mean, first of all, I want to say any team with Austin Reeves has a chance to beat anybody on any given day. So Austin Reeves is that guy. We know that. I think he's going to have a huge playoffs. He's going to come alive because, as you said, AD, LeBron, they're definitely a little older. Someone needs to carry the load. And I'm not saying Reeves is going to carry the load, but he can make shots. He's been very good all season long. He's been very good. And we know he's a big game player. So looking at this playoff series in general, if we did get Nuggets Lakers, I think the best time to get them is the first round because they don't have momentum on their side, at least. And again, we kind of see it in the NCAA tournament. It's a little different here, but teams that come right in fresh, like teams that come in off that the conference tournament. Teams that win the conference tournament, like we look at NC State, they had a ton of momentum. They didn't have any rest. They played 5 games in a row. It's a little different in the playoffs, but if the Lakers come in, they beat the Pelicans game 1. I mean, they're going to have momentum coming into that series against the Nuggets. And at this point, like everyone's tired. Everyone's body's tired. Like a day of rest may help, but also playing and having momentum coming into a series can definitely help too.
Yeah, I agree with that. This also does beg the question, though, and actually, maybe not this series in particular, but maybe more so out in the Eastern Conference. You look at the other 2 seed, because Denver's the 2 seed in the West. You look at the 2 seed in the Eastern Conference, you've got the New York Knicks there. Now, they were able to usurp the Milwaukee Bucks on the final game of the season. They passed the Cavaliers a couple of days ago. But now all that means is they get to play the winner of the 76ers and the Miami Heat. You look at the Bucks, they get the Pacers. You look at the Cavs, they get the Magic. Most people would probably say they would rather face those teams than either Philly or Miami, despite the seeds being so different. So another question out here is, do you think it's finally time that the NBA adopts a system almost like a fantasy draft where the number 1 seed, they get to pick who they want to play in the first round of the playoffs? And maybe they pick the 2 seed, but whoever it is. And then if they don't pick the 2 seed, the 2 seed gets the pick, and then the 3 seed, and so on, so on. Do you think that's how we should figure out where teams are, placed in the bracket?
Do they do this in like international soccer, and that's how you came up with this, or is this like just something?
No. This is, and I didn't come up with this. Other people have come up with this before, but I mean, it just like with the Cavaliers, right? They were, I don't know what their record was, but they finished the season something like 4-10 or 4-11, 4-12, and it probably helped them because again, they were going to be the 2 seed. They were going to get Philly or Miami. Now they get the Magic, and that's probably a lot easier.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it'd be really cool having teams pick who they wanted to play. Also, that would lead to some bulletin board material. Like, and again, if you're the Celtics and you say, hey, we want to play this team. And again, I think the smart approach, like you said, the 1 might pick the 2 and you never know. But I think the smart approach would still be pick the worst team and play the better team later on in the series, or pick the team that's really cold coming into the playoffs. But that could lead to some bulletin board material too. Like they picked us, they think they can beat us, and that could lead to some really exciting matchups too. I love how the NBA does their playoff bracket. I think like the play-in tournament is really exciting. I think it just adds a whole nother dimension to it. So the NBA is already doing a really good job with their playoffs, but this would make it pretty cool. I think keep the play-in and then move into that where you can pick your seeding.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, again, to use the Cavs as an example, they have not performed that well against Boston, and they've been on a really big losing streak. So the Cavs aren't the worst team in the conference, but would Boston, with the number 1 seed and theoretically the first pick in this draft, would they want to play the Cavs, the 4 seed? I think it's possible. And I mean, we've seen the NBA adopt this, schoolyard pick your not opponent but pick your teammates system with the All-Star draft. Like we have the team captains, and on national television they would just go ahead and make their picks. So the NBA is open to exploring. I think that there have been talks about this in the NFL as well, because sometimes the 4 seed, like a couple of years ago, the winner of the NFC South, everybody knew that they were just going to get stomped, but they were still a 4 seed because they won their division.
Definitely. It would be really cool. Now, looking at this Knicks versus either 76ers or Heat game, I think the Knicks are in trouble in general, because when you don't have Julius Randle, who's going to put up points for you, who's going to score 24 points and grab 10 rebounds a game, like you're in trouble no matter who you face. Not saying the 76ers and the Heat are the best 2 teams coming into this thing, but they've still won 46 games and 47 games. The Knicks have won 50 games and they're a 2 seed, right? So there's not that big of a difference there. And we know Jimmy Butler in the playoffs can get hot. We know the 76ers have a lot of talent here. So this is definitely not a good matchup for the Knicks, even having home court.
Yeah, I agree with you. And it's a shame because I can't speak highly enough of the job that Jalen Brunson has done. Like I'm not going to act like I've been a huge supporter of Jalen Brunson since he was in high school in Villanova and with the Mavericks. Like I was with the rest of the world. I kind of discovered how good he was when he did move to the Knicks, but I have just been so impressed with him. And this is an aside. If it might trigger some people in the comments, I've been looking into his season this year compared to Carmelo Anthony's best season with the Knicks. I think Brunson might have had the better season. Not saying he's a better player, but I think he might have had the better season. That's how highly I revere Jalen Brunson. But the fact that he is so clearly the guy, especially without Julius Randle, to your point. Even with the return of OG Anunoby, Brunson is the offense. Like, he's supposed to give you 30 and 8, 30 and 10 every night. And when you get to the playoffs, as good as he is, he's still a 6', 5'11" guard without a ton of athleticism from the NBA level, not compared to, the average guy. Of course, he's more athletic than them. But when you get to the playoff series, there are less fouls called. The game slows down. There are more tough physical defenses. I just worry the burden that they've already put on him throughout the regular season and that they will put on him in the playoffs. I do worry that's going to be, an awful lot for him to try to handle. And then you look at the rest of the supporting cast: Josh Hart, OG Anunoby, Isaiah Hartenstein. These are phenomenal role players, but I just don't know if they do have the talent level needed to, even if they win the second series. But I do think they can struggle, or they could struggle with both Philly and Miami.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at not having Julius Randle, that's going to play a massive factor here. But what Jalen Brunson did in the final month of the season, knowing his team needed a boost to improve their playoff chances and stay hot, like, he was just fantastic. I mean, 35, 43, 45, 39, 30, 40. Like, he put this team on his back. He put the city on his back. I think we're going to see a similar thing in the playoffs, but even with the best players, they can't be perfect like that in every single game of every playoff series. They're going to have bad nights, and you need players around you to step up. And like you said, I don't think the Knicks have the star power, like the secondary star power that you need in this league in the playoffs, that's driven by star power.
Yeah, and also keep in mind, Miami beat New York in the playoffs last year. Now, it was a different New York team. Julius Randle was playing, but the rest of the supporting cast wasn't necessarily there. So it is a different Knicks team, but there is history between these teams. That being said, I don't think Miami wins that play-in game with Philadelphia. Even though Jimmy Butler has performed very well against Philly since he left, I do think the Sixers are going to win that game, and we're going to get a matchup between the Sixers and the Knicks.
Definitely. Now, we both said it. We're looking at the playoff bracket, and there's one series that's jumping out to us: Pacers versus Bucks. This is a series where the Pacers, as their series price, they are a dog right now, and they have beaten the Bucks this season. The Bucks have not finished the season well. Indiana's 4-1 in the season series. They know how to win games. They are only 21-20 on the road. They're not going to have home court here. So if I had to pick one thing going against them, that would be it. I don't want to count out any team with Giannis here, but if I'm looking at a dog for a series price, it's definitely the Indiana Pacers.
It's funny because Tanner and our job was to show up to this recording with a series we were looking at as, one of the more interesting ones that we didn't talk about. And we both showed up with this series, Bucks Pacers. And I'm with you. In my mind, this is like a 52-48 Bucks series. So for the price you're getting for the Pacers at that plus 180, plus 200, I think it's really good. It's a really good value. Like you said, Indiana 4-1 in the season series. What I do worry about for them is, going back to our conversation on star power, Tyrese Halliburton's clearly their best player, and he was pretty awful ever since he came back from his injury. He did have some decent nights shooting the ball, but not even remotely close to the Tyrese Halliburton we saw in 2023 before transitioning to 2024 when he had his injury. That being said, though, Giannis has the calf strain. We don't know if he's going to be available for game one. We don't know if he's going to be available for the series. Damian Lillard did not play the last few games. And even when he's played, he's not been great. Again, it's like, okay, 24.7 assists per game. I'll take that. Sure, you will. But he's not playing what Damian Lillard is supposed to play like. He's shooting 34% from three. He's not taking over in the big moments anymore like he was earlier in the year. You definitely need that version of Dame Dalla to step up into the series, or else, Indiana's could be a real problem for them. The biggest thing here for me is Indiana's probably the best transition team in the NBA, even on defense, even though their defense was pretty terrible for the most of the year, although it has gotten a lot better over the last couple of months. They're really good in transition. Milwaukee's really bad there. So I just worry, if you're the Bucks, if you're going to be giving up these cheap baskets to one of the most high-powered offenses in the league, with what we've been seeing from them ever since Doc Rivers came over, I just don't know how they respond to that sort of Giannis averaging 40 points for a series.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And like you said, Giannis is healthy even when he does come back. We don't know what we're going to get. And if he's not 100% healthy, the plus 200 definitely looks a lot more appealing. Even if you don't have him for game 1 or game 2, those games are going to be in Milwaukee, and that's where Milwaukee shines. They're a great home team. They're not as good on the road. So definitely leaning towards the Pacers here. Looking at Tyrese Halliburton, though, Grant, I got a question for you. He hasn't been good at all, like you said. Like the scoring outputs aren't good. He is shooting 47% from the field in his past 10 games, but like he's just not shooting that much, right? 12 points, 19. He does have a 30-point game, but 12 points, 8 points, right? Like he has not been that guy. Do you think the playoffs is a spot where it can cause him to shine because he knows he has to step up?
No, I don't think so. Maybe if he was healthy, I would say so, but there's just such a clear separation in performance pre and post injury. So, I think that as the season has gone on, the fact he hasn't re-aggravated it and it's forced him to miss time is good. So even though he is playing and not resting, I think he is building up some muscle around it. He's building some strength back, but he's still clearly not 100% himself. I think your best hope is just he continues to build that strength back and just avoids a relapse of an injury, and that gives you your best chance.
Definitely. Any other series you looking at?
The one that I really want to watch, it is that Bucks Pacers series, but another one, the Mavericks versus the Clippers. Everything is telling me to bet the Mavericks here. I'm guessing there's going to be a huge amount of public support there. I personally believe the Mavericks have a very good chance to win the Western Conference. That being said, it's the Clippers, and Kawhi Leonard just every year he turns into God mode in the first round of the playoffs, and then he gets injured and he's gone. So, Luka has been sensational against the Clippers. They've got a lot of playoff history, despite Luka only being 24, 25 years old. But I do just worry about Kawhi going Terminator mode and making this a 7-game series. So that's another one that I'm excited for.
Give me Luka. Give me the Mavs.
I'm with you. I think the Mavs get it done.
All right, so we got the NFL draft coming up here. Got a couple final segments to end with this, but looking at the receivers, you got Marvin Harrison Jr., Malik Neighbors, and Romeo Dunze. Neighbors is trending up right now. Overall, I'd rather have Marvin Harrison Jr., but I think what people aren't talking about is how stacked this receiver class is. Like everyone's talking about the quarterbacks and Caleb Williams getting a lot of attention, but the receivers are really good in this draft.
Yeah, it's a very deep receiver draft, one of the deepest that I can remember. I mean, you've got players all over the board. To your point, Neighbors is trending up. I always find this interesting. We're seeing it with Neighbors. We're seeing it with J.J. McCarthy. I find it so interesting that players' stocks can improve so much in the month or two leading up to the draft when no football is being played. And I understand that it's the process of scouts going back and looking at the film, but it's like, were you not paying attention before? When we're not seeing anything new, all this stuff is already there on tape. But the point that I would say is, look, Marvin Harrison Jr. is just different. This could prove to be wrong because the best prospects, the guys who stand out the most, always don't pan out to be the best players. But what we've seen so far, in my opinion, Marvin Harrison Jr. is just different. I mean, 6'4" frame, strong, effortless route runner, can run the route tree, tremendous hands, played at a big-time program at Ohio State, delivered in some of the biggest moments. I think you've got to be taking him as the first receiver off the board.
I agree. And there's some mock drafts that have him being traded, him going pick 5 to the Cardinals with the Chargers trading him. That's the current one on CBS. That's if the Patriots take a quarterback, which they're probably going to take a quarterback right now because they don't have a quarterback. But I think Harrison is by far the best. And once Harrison goes, then we're going to quickly see Neighbors go. He is trending up. And then Dunze is going to go as well in the first round. So between the quarterbacks and the receivers in the top 10, you're going to get 6 to 7 of those positions being receivers and quarterbacks.
Yeah, and I think all 3 of those guys, by the way, are going to be, legit wide receiver ones. Maybe not all of them in year 1, just because there is a decent amount of receiver talent in the league right now. But I do think that's where all of them belong. I do think they will all be receiver ones. I guess, expounding on what you said as far as how deep this draft is at the receiver position. I mean, looking at some of these other guys, you got Adonai Mitchell, Brian Thomas Jr., Lad McConkey, Xavier Worthy, Troy Franklin, Keon Coleman, a guy who might slip to the 2nd or 3rd round. And a lot of people were arguing he was the best receiver in the draft earlier in this year. Any one of those guys that stands out to you or a team you think could look at getting one of those guys, anything like that?
For the receivers?
Yeah.
I mean, I think the Cardinals need a receiver for sure. You got to give Kyler Murray some weapons. I think the Chargers really need a receiver. I don't know if they're going to address it right away because they have pick 37 and they could trade and get some value there, and they already have a really good quarterback. I think the Chargers might need to draft an offensive lineman just to protect their prize pupil and Justin Herbert. But I think they could really use a receiver, and the Bears could honestly use another receiver. Like, they have a lot of talent. Let's add even more offensive talent. The defense was okay last year. If they can keep improving the defense a little bit with later picks, you get Caleb Williams, you get him some talent there, you get an offensive lineman maybe, like, you're going to be in really good shape too. So I think those are 3 teams early in the first round that could use a receiver.
Do you think the Bears use the 9th pick on a receiver? Like, maybe Neighbors if he's there, but probably more likely Odunze?
You never know. I mean, the fact that you could get DJ Moore, you have Keenan Allen, and then you get Odunze, who, Odunze is really good, obviously. Like you said, legit receiver 1 potential. I don't think he's going to be there yet. It takes time, and we know how DJ Moore can come along. We know Keenan Allen, when he's healthy, how good he can be. Like, this could be a really good receiver core if you add those 3 into an offense that was okay last year and was really explosive at times with Justin Fields. And they had a good defense. Like, this was a good considering they're the first pick in the draft. This is a good football team. So if you can just keep adding receiver talent for Caleb Williams to work with, there's a lot of teams that aren't going to be able to stop you.
Yeah, I mean, an offense with we have different opinions on Caleb Williams, but we at least both agree he has a lot of potential.
Yeah.
Then you've got DeAndre Swift in the backfield, Cole Kmet and Gerald Everett at tight end, and then DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, and Neighbors or Odunze out wide. That's a pretty insane offense as far as the potential ceiling of what they could hit.
Yeah, it's going to be scary. Looking at the Chargers, though, we know Harbaugh is looking pretty in the powder blue right now. What do you think he's going to do with that pick? I already said, like, it could be an offensive lineman. It could be a receiver. I think it should be more offensive lineman than receiver right away because those positions are very undervalued. There's more good receivers in this draft than good offensive linemen. But what would you do if you were Mr. Harbaugh?
I would explore trading back and not too far, but, if a team like the Vikings want to trade up, or maybe the Broncos, whoever it is, they want to trade up and get that 5th pick so they can take JJ McCarthy, go for it. I would, as long as the deal makes sense, I would certainly be open to it. But if they are going to pick there, then I think they go with the lineman direction, and specifically Joe Alt. We know what Harbaugh wants to do. He wants to be able to run the football. And even when he has some of these more explosive passing games, like when he was in San Francisco and Colin Kaepernick was great, Kaepernick was still a tremendous running threat, and the team could still run the ball really well. They had a really good offensive line. So Harbaugh wants to build the foundation of the team, which is in the trenches. He wants to be able to run the ball. He knows he has the quarterback who theoretically should be able to lift the talent around him. So if you're giving Harbaugh the option of, hey, we're going to give you a solid foundation with that line, we're going to be able to run the ball, that's going to open up the passing game. Or we can get you, theoretically, let's just say we get you Marvin Harrison Jr., and we're just going to go bombs away. He's going to take that first option. So, assuming they don't trade it, I do think they pick up Joe Alt. And from there, they can take one of those guys we were talking about, like a Troy Franklin or a Keon Coleman. You can go look at grabbing them in the 2nd round.
Yeah, there's plenty of guys. I just don't look at Justin Herbert like a championship quarterback. Like, he's a good quarterback, but I don't look at him as a guy who's going to get over the hump. And I think the best way to potentially get him over the hump is by giving him an offensive line, because he needs time in the pocket more than a receiver that's going to make plays down the field. Because if you don't have any time, you don't have a chance to win, especially when you're in a division with Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, I think it might be a little harsh to say he can't get it done. I don't think he can get it done on his own, like we did just see Mahomes do from the offensive perspective. The Chiefs' defense was tremendous. But no, I don't think Herbert's quite at that level. But I do think if you get the right guys around him, what we've seen from Herbert, he should at least be in contention. He should at least be that Josh Allen, Joe Burrow type level. I guess Burrow's been to a Super Bowl, but they should be right there where you're looking at him as like, okay, if it's not Mahomes, then he should be the guy.
I look at like Josh Allen as, if it's not Mahomes, he should be the guy, and he's still not the guy. Like Josh Allen, like it's just Mahomes and everyone else. And then you have it's Mahomes, then you have Joe Burrow because he's kryptonite to Patrick Mahomes. And then you have Josh Allen, who can't beat Mahomes. And then you have like Justin Herbert. Like there's a bunch of tiers he needs to climb before he's even close to Mahomes.
I mean, Mahomes is just so good, man. Like he's so much better than Josh Allen. He's so much better than Lamar Jackson. He's so much better than Joe Burrow. And those guys are all outstanding football players.
Can't say Joe Burrow.
Yes, I can. Mahomes has won 3 Super Bowls. He just won a Super Bowl with like nobody to throw to.
But Joe Burrow's the one guy who can beat him. Like everyone has that one guy. Joe Burrow's the one guy who like you can say, okay, I'm willing to bet against Patrick Mahomes because it's Joe Burrow.
Him in they're what 1-1 in the playoffs.
Joe Burrow's also had a bunch of injuries too, so you can't like sit here and say.
Well, that's what makes Joe Burrow a liability too.
That's Joe Burrow though. Like it's Joe Burrow. He's like Joe. I'm not saying Joe Burrow's better than Patrick Mahomes. I love Patrick Mahomes. I'm a big Mahomes guy now, but Joe Burrow is the one guy who I will say I'm gonna bet against Patrick Mahomes today because it's Joe Burrow.
I do, I would probably agree that I have more confidence in Burrow than any other AFC quarterback in beating Mahomes. I definitely wouldn't call him his kryptonite. And again, we've only seen it happen one time in the playoffs, and that was probably Mahomes's worst half of football in his playoff career in that second half, which is a defensive thing. Not that Burrow wasn't also great, but with Burrow's injury history, which again is really racking up. He was injured at Ohio State, injured at LSU. Then he has the torn whatever in his arm. He had the torn torn ACL his rookie season. We had the calf strain. This is a very injury prone player. So I don't want this to become a situation of we never see Burrow versus Mahomes in a big playoff game again. I want to see it happen again before I kind of officially give Joe Burrow that title.
So Joe Burrow's 2-0 against Mahomes in the regular season. He's 1-1 in the playoffs. The whole Burrowhead Stadium game, though, the late hit killed them in that game. If they don't get the late hit, the Chiefs don't win that game. So I don't want to sit here and be like, Joe Burrow can't beat Patrick. Joe Burrow beats Patrick Mahomes.
I mean, Mahomes had a better QBR than Burrow in every game they played. So I
agree.
Don't think it's fair to say that
that's
Burrow.
Why he's his kryptonite. That's why he doesn't have to play well. He's just the guy that can beat him.
I mean, there are those guys. Those guys do exist.
Yeah, like Tom Brady had those guys. Who was Tom Brady's guy? Eli Manning.
Nick
Eli
Foles.
Manning. Nick Foles. Well, Eli Manning, I would say. Nick Foles.
Yeah, it was definitely Eli.
It was Eli. Eli wasn't. You can't say Eli's better than Tom Brady, but that was his kryptonite. So that's Joe Burrow.
Yeah, I agree. But Tanner, that's going to do it for this episode of Monday. Ride the Line. It was a good episode.
It was a good episode. It was a lot of fun. We got a lot of fun stuff coming up with the NBA playoffs. Hey, we'll talk about a little puck, a little NHL maybe. We'll break that down. The Boston Bruins trying to win again. They haven't won in a while. They're not that good. But we'll talk about that. We'll talk about football, NFL draft. So make sure you guys subscribe, like, share, do it all. Press the little bell notification. We're live we're not live, but we post new episodes Mondays and Thursdays and got clips all week.
Yep, 100%. So, guys, just a review. Hit that like button. Drop some comments. Let us know who you're going to be betting on in the NBA play-in tournament. And drop a subscription to the channel so you never miss out when we post. And we will catch you all on the next episode of Ride the Line.